Hi friends, welcome to Bella Stitchery. Today is a fun, messy day. I have gloves on for a reason. I recommend gloves. Can I just say that first? Because today we're going to be coloring seam binding, laces. These are my two go-tos for pretty much everything vintage, shabby chic. I have dozens of spools of ribbon, and I tend to use the same two materials. But I wanted to find a way to match them to the projects I was working on without necessarily having to buy them in every color. First of all, I don't even know if these come in every color, but I buy about 100 yards at a time of Hug Snug. This is my favorite brand for seam binding. It's super soft. It wrinkles really well. It's roughly $16 for 100 yards, which really isn't bad, like 16 cents a yard. And I buy them in the lighter shades like this, either like a white or a silver, because it takes the color really well. And then I use that to make custom shades. Look at these beautiful, look at this. Yellow, green, pink, purple, any color ink you have in your supplies will work on these ribbons and laces. I'm going to show you today 3 different techniques. The first one I'd like to show you is the first one I learned, which was using distress oxides. If you have not used these inks before, I recommend trying them out. At least buy a few. They're almost always on sale at Hobby Lobby. I'll also put a link to Amazon for some of these colors I'm using today, but they're great for stamping, watercolor, ribbon dyeing. They react with water, so they're really interesting ink to use, unlike a lot of your like waterproof, sharp image stamping inks. This kind of is almost like a paint. So it's really fun. So what you're gonna do is just pick your favorite color. I picked green today because it's spring. This is called Twisted Citron. Then you're gonna take your seam binding, like so. Open your ink, like so, and you're just gonna smash it down. This is the best part. I am working on a craft mat today. These are also amazing because they can get messy and they clean up. They may stain, as you can see, but they clean up really well. Hot glue, inks, fabulous. You can also use saran wrap like on a cardboard piece or paper plate, something that will let you blend colors with water, because that's the other thing you're gonna need is a spray bottle. Once you have inked up your mat, you're going to spray it. And as you can see, it's already making it into a kind of paint. See the drops here? I also sometimes spray this just to make sure it doesn't get too dark in one particular spot. I want it to really blend. And then you're just gonna like wipe it up basically. Wipe it up, wrinkle it up. You can add more color if you like it. This is really cool. Again, kind of a springy color. I think this would look really cute on like Easter layouts or pages. Kind of soft florals, baby chicks, you know the kind. And then if you want to add more, you just go back in with your ink. I mean, it really, not like rocket science. And you can make it darker, see? And then you're going to want to let this dry for sure. And it does take a while to dry. As you can see, I tend to get them pretty wet, but I want to make sure they wrinkle really well. So you can let this air dry, use a heat tool. I actually have some right now out in the sunshine on my patio, but it'll take a while. I mean, I usually don't even try to work with them until the next day. They're pretty wet. And if it's even a little wet, the color will bleed onto your other projects, which you may like. You know, crafts is all about like, oh, that happened, but I'm just gonna use it. No one will know that wasn't on purpose. I have a lot of those. That's also why I like shabby chic and vintage stuff. You're like, oh, that paper tore. You know what? I like the tear. I like the random ink. Can't go wrong. I like it. So the next technique I'm going to show you is the Dilutions ink spray. And I've actually used this in other tutorials. It's really fun. It's great with stencils. It is a much darker ink than with an ink pad. So it does not take a lot. You will get a much darker color if that's what you're looking for. So I'll show you how you're gonna use these. I took some more of my Hug Snug here. I'm going to get this a little bit wet in advance because this does come out in a spray. I don't want it to just make these like spots of color on here. I really want it to blend. So I'm gonna get this a little wet. Take my purple. This is called After Midnight. And it's such a similar technique to what I just showed you. You just rub it in the ink. But look at how dark that is. It's really cool. And honestly, I don't even know if you could buy seam binding in this color. I mean, maybe you can. Don't like fact check me or anything. But the fact that you could also use this to match, if you are using these with stencils to make a page or a card or a canvas, you can use this same purple in the background and then know that you have an exact match in your ribbons. So I think that's kind of cool. So I'm gonna set that aside to dry. Simple as that. You really do want to clean your mat between colors because it will pick up even the slightest color once you get it wet again into your next project, which again, may not be an issue for you. It usually isn't for me either. I like to just go with it. They're all unique, right? That's why it's handmade. Work of art. And finally, these are Lindy's Magicals. My new favorite medium to use for all things paint. I've recently discovered Lindy's and I feel like I use these on almost every project right now because they're really fun to use and I've never used anything quite like it. I have a tutorial on how to use these shakers to make watercolor backgrounds, so check that out as well. These are powdered pigments. They come in these little like kind of makeup looking pots, usually in a stack of several colors, or as shakers, like little salt shakers. They work essentially the same way. If you're gonna use them out of the pots though, you may need a paintbrush to get it out. It's a little bit easier. So today, let's make some pink. Use this. And how I like to use these versus putting it on here, I like to put a little bit of water. This is, as you might be able to tell, my paint jar. I've used Dixie cups, which also work great unless you have kids who also like Dixie cups, because then you have Dixie cup snow living room. They like to wrinkle them up individually and throw them over their heads while singing the songs from Frozen. So now I use a glass and I find that it works a lot better. So what I did here is I just added a little bit of water. This is the powdered pigment. You can add however much you'd like. Obviously, the more you add, the darker your color is going to be. So if you want a really soft kind of rose, if you want a really dark pink, you can just go nuts. This is your life. YOLO. So I take my seam binding and, as you may be able to guess, I'm going to throw it into the glass of water. I may get some purple because I feel like my glove still has some purple. Yep. Again, no big deal. There's even some yellow. Look at that. So you're just going to dip it in here like an Easter egg. Oh, yeah. The fun thing about this craft project as well is you kind of never know how it's going to turn out. And it's always kind of exciting. This is pink and it is glorious. This reminds me of like a vintage Valentine. This would be so cute on a Valentine card with like a retro image on it. I mean, how great is that? And honestly, because it makes so much, you could probably do your entire 100-yard spool of Hug Snug and just make pink seam binding more than you might ever use in real life. But you just feel very productive that way. So that's really it, my friends. It is that easy. You may have other inks you want to try that you already have in your stash. I think most things work pretty well with water because this material really absorbs quite well. One more tip to try, because I also use a lot of lace, and I buy these in bulk too. This I found on eBay. I don't even know if it has a brand. Lace, cheap, I don't know. I buy them by the yard. I like, again, to use a lot of white because I can color it how I'd like. And it's the same technique. You'll see that it works pretty well with any medium. Let's use the ink sprays again because I like it. Do some brown. Brown seems very vintagey for some lace. Spray. I like to get everything nice and wet, especially this because it's almost like a stiff, I don't know, thread. I'm not even sure what this lace is made out of. And then you're just gonna spray it with the brown. Look at that. breezy. This takes a little bit more color, just again because the material's a little bit different. But you just rub it in your color there, spread it around, and in seconds, you have custom color lace. I mean, amazing, right? Now you can throw some more seam binding in the same puddle of color. Throw whatever you want. Doilies, burlap squares, really anything that can absorb color, you do this. And I really like doing a lot of this at a time while I have the gloves on, because most of my crafting time I don't wear gloves. So I like to get all of the messy stuff done all at once and then just let everything dry, and then I can use it for crafting and I don't have to make stuff along the way. So let me show you some of the projects I have made using these techniques. Again, with all the seam binding I'm going to show you, I started literally with this same color. So again, it's kind of a good investment. I'll post that. Here is one card, for example. I actually have a tutorial on how I made this card in one of my other posts, so check that out. Here's the seam binding I colored for that. Here is another one. Look at that pretty cranberry. Matches her little swimsuit, added some shells, so cute. Here's a little purple. I think I showed that earlier. Here's some teal. Look at this. I love that color. How pretty. Put some lace on there. Easy, right? And you can even use it in scrapbook pages. Here's one I did a couple weeks ago. And this, as you could see, kind of pulled a different shades in there. It may have been because I had other stuff on my mat. Again, I'm not super clean about my crafting experiences, but I kind of like the way that looks with the bronze and all this other stuff. So try it out. Like I said, I'll put some links to the colors I used today. Leave me comments if there's other inks you've used, or if you have other feedback or ideas. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, ring the bell. That way you'll be updated as soon as there's new videos. And check it out, try it out. Let's go make some stuff. Thanks for coming in. Bye.